listening to this. This is one of the first Be Better Brand podcasts. I was able to sneak this one in with Hailey Chambers, who's my roommate, of course, lives with me. This whole mantra, the whole podcast, the whole brand, the whole idea is to be a better person, to be better father, better mother, better sister, better brother, better employee, better person, develop empathy, just being a better person day to day, whether it's small things, small changes you can make in your own life, things that you may hear on here that, maybe that light bulb goes off and something you can do, repeat what somebody has done to be better. So Hailey has a bit of an interesting story. I don't know how much she'll want to share. Feels, you can share as little as much as you want. You went through a lot of stuff at a young age, and you've continued to be better through it. One of the main things I know for you was getting into therapy, which you were very hesitant at first. We're going to dive into that a little bit, but for people who don't know you or just seeing this, picking up on Spotify, picking up on YouTube, who are you? How do we know each other? You want to get into that?
Sure. I'm Hailey. We know each other because you are married to my dear sister.
Yep.
The amazing Amber. What else did you ask?
Like, how do we know each other?
Yeah.
What's our relationship?
Yeah, you're my best friend. You're my bud.
Yeah. You've lived with us for
almost 5 years.
Yeah, about 5-6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been a long-time roommate for a while. You've been hanging out with us for a bit. You're now in college, right? Westchester?
Yes, I am.
Finishing up as a senior.
Yep. Great times.
Almost done.
Can't wait.
Yep.
No, I can't. I don't want to end.
Real world's coming. That's good.
Scary.
It's good to see.
No.
So what made you want to get into, call it being better, but I don't want to kill the words, personal development? I know therapy has been an avenue that you've gone through to make this happen. How did you even get into that? How did you hear about it? Were you hesitant at first? How was that process for you? Because it's looked at a lot of different ways depending who you are, and if you're male or if you're female, it's looked at a lot of different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure Amber's what got me into it. She is the first person who started therapy.
Your sister, my
yeah,
wife.
Yes. Yeah. And she advocated for it because I was having issues. It's so hard to pinpoint and vocalize how the issues and what they were, what's actually going on in the brain. But anxiety and just weird points of a depression in a way where but I wouldn't say I'd be diagnosed with depression because it wasn't really low lows for long periods of time or high highs after that. It was just a night or maybe the next day also following that, or a whole day of me just being stuck in my room. I just lights off, wouldn't do anything. It was just very hard to socialize and get out there. But what made me get into it besides Amber, obviously my dad passing, and then just realizing that I don't know, after everything that I've been through the trauma of living with my mom and my dad together, and then my dad solely when it was just him and us 4 kids. None of that was honestly a really good time. It was all extremely hard. And can't blame my siblings because they all have their own life, which they should. But being the youngest is almost you're forgotten about in a way, if that makes sense, where your siblings are older than you, so they get to go see friends and stay away at friends' houses. So a lot of the times it was me and my brother. I mean, they obviously experienced a lot too, my older siblings, but I know that they had more leeway to leave,
right,
where I was stuck in the house and having to deal with my mom and dad fist fighting each other or drinking a bunch or doing anything between that.
Right.
And so that obviously isn't good for a child to see. And then when he was on his own, that wasn't awful. Like, there wasn't, like, punches being thrown.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was very absent. He went away, like, every weekend to see his girlfriend at the time. When I was in, like, middle school. So, like, me being in middle school, I was like, heck yeah, like...
House to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Not like I did the partying. My siblings are the ones who were in high school and threw the parties.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, being absent, that's also not good. Not feeling heard. And then as we moved for, like, the 5th time out to Arlington Heights, we moved in with his fiance, and that was an interesting time, because it was essentially, like, just me. Like, yes, like, I moved when I was a freshman in high school. My brother moved when he was going into his junior year, so he was there for those 2 years, but I was there for, like, all 4. And then, like, my 2 older sisters, like Amber and Alicia, they were off at college, or Alicia did, like, come home here and there. But again, like, they had their own life. I mean,
yeah.
Who would want to come home, like, being away at college and, like, having that freedom and that experience? But yeah, so the monster stepmom. It's always that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that combined, and then the tragedy of my dad, like, that whole time, because of how traumatic it was, it's just, like, all a blur. I have, like, little blips of stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing, like, too concrete. Like, in my major for early ed, we get asked, oh, like, think back to when you were in, like, elementary school or, like, high school or middle school or whatever, and, like, think about that teacher who really impacted you. And I'm like, I have no memory. Like, none of this, like...
Just block it out.
Yeah. So... yeah, just trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, which led to me being, like, especially when I moved in high school, me being just very internal, and I'm still, like, a little closer. I'm still a very, like, internal person. Like, me and my cousin talk about it, and, you know, my therapist tells me not to use the word crazy, because we're not crazy. But sometimes, you know, you do feel crazy, and she's a very outward spoken person, or, like, outward crazy, where anything comes to her mind, it's, you know, go, go, go.
Right, there's no filter.
Right, yeah. Where I sit there and I won't say anything. Like, someone could be, like, verbally saying stuff to me, like, in a mean way, or, like, in any situation, and I just sit there and I don't know how to get it out. It's just, like, I'm essentially just, like, talking to myself in my head constantly. And so that's, like, how it was throughout high school, to the point where I, like, shut off my emotions, or, like, not essentially, like, shut them off, but, like, you know, you numb yourself, after experiencing all of that. And it got so bad to the point where, like, my dad even, like, sat down with me and asked if I wanted to go and move in with my mom all the way down in Kentucky.
Oof.
Which that wouldn't be any better. Yeah, so, like, anytime, like, they'd ask me questions, like, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on with you? Like, the only thing I could say was, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know how to vocalize it, or I don't even know what I'm feeling myself. And I even, like, saw that through my high school relationship. I was just, like, flying by without taking anything in, or, like, understanding what was going on or what my emotions were. So I think that's definitely another reason why it kind of is like a blur. Yeah. But
I mean, a lot of it too might just become from you're just trying to get through it so you could do what your sisters did and leave. And if you want to come back, you could, as opposed to I got nowhere else to go right now.
Right.
You're kind of stuck. So you kind of turn everything off and everything's a blur, and then shit pops up and memories pop up and they're not good.
Yes.
And then you develop bad habits from it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's tough.
Because I was definitely acting out. I'm a very strict rule follower, but that time period in high school, I was not. Snuck out, you know, did the whole 9 yards. And yeah, it took all the way up until sophomore year in college, right? Yeah, like end of, yeah, yeah. And therapy isn't like a one and done thing, you know, it's just like medicine. Like, you're trying it and seeing if it works. Or like your therapist, if you have that connection with that person. Like my first therapist, who I saw like end of freshman year, when I finally decided to try it, I think I wanted to try it because I was just done feeling the way I was, done, I don't know, like not expressing how I was feeling or even understanding what I was feeling.
Right.
I think that was like essentially like the biggest part of it. On top of like everything I experienced, like you need to get that out, you need to talk about it, because you can't keep that inside. But that was definitely like a big reason why I went, because I just legit had no emotions. And you know, I liked her at first, but then she was like, you know, like sessions are like once a week, or you could do bi-weekly, or like once a month type thing.
Right.
And they're 50 minutes to like an hour max, you know, unless, I don't know, maybe you can like ask for more time. I'm not too sure, but that's like how my sessions have always been.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty normal.
She would show up without letting me know, like 30-45 minutes late, no contact, not being like, hey, like a client rolled over in their time, like I'm gonna be a little late, like nothing. So that didn't work out. And then I tried a different therapist, and it just like clicked. And I do telehealth, so like over Zoom.
Yeah.
And I do think that being in person, you can definitely get like a fuller experience. Like,
right.
Your therapist is able to read your body language, and just if you're, you know, just
face to face is always better,
right?
With anything, you know what I mean? Unless you're really scared to go outside, then telehealth is great. But I think the benefit outweighs it if you can be placed face to face. But it also makes easier access for people like you, because you would have never connected with her because you ain't flying to Cali
right
once a week to go talk
exactly.
to her. So
yeah, it definitely makes it like easier, because I can be anywhere and attend my appointments. But yeah, it's like always, it was extremely uncomfortable at first, especially like the first time with my very first therapist, because you have to like, I don't know, like, you know, reopen old wounds.
Right.
And I'm not used to it. Like, growing up from like how traumatic like we did grow up, we were taught not to talk about it. What happens in the house stays in the house. You talk about it like maybe with your siblings, but like that's it. Yep. No one else is supposed to know. So I like took that all the way up until freshman year of college, where I never talked about home life. Like, everyone told me like I was so mysterious and this and that, because I never talked about me or anything like that. And it wasn't until my freshman roommate, don't even know why, I think we just like clicked, and I like started like telling her, and it just all just, you know, like word vomit, just all just like starts coming out.
Yeah.
And so like that definitely makes it easier. And like going through like the first therapist made it easier to talk about it with the second one, because I've already like, I don't know, like
more
gotten it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, I love my therapist now. She's amazing.
That's good.
Yeah, she tells me all the time how I've been thinking about you over the weekend. I hope you're doing so good. Oh my God, your hair, it's so beautiful. You look so great. How does your hair grow that long? Yeah, compliments all the time. Feels great. It's amazing.
I'm sure it does. So you kind of went over how you kind of got into therapy, right? You were obviously struggling. You kept it to yourself.
Yep.
And then you were able to talk to somebody about it, which is just like a friend at first. I think that's kind of how it all starts. There's like a funny story that popped in my head. Matthew McConaughey wrote a book. I forget which one it was. I've listened to it a couple times, his audiobook. And he has this whole thing where like he's going through a bunch of shit. He's got all this shit going on. He can't get out of his head. So he like flies over to this different third world country and walks with like this really profound monk or something like that. And they walk, and like he does word garbage, like you were saying, for like 8 hours straight, because all they did was walk in this desert,
right? And
then walk back. And at the end of it, he finally like, so what do you have to say about like all my like issues and stuff? He's like, yeah, me too. He's like, sometimes you just need to get it out, and sometimes you know that other people just are struggling just as much as you are.
Right.
Like, you're not in this alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like the whole point of his story. And it was like, it's funny, just garbage word, vomit. And he's like, yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, huh, then I flew home.
Right.
You know, it's funny.
Feels better.
So what have you learned through therapy? Like, obviously you get it, you able to vent, which always I think is good in any situation. But obviously with paying a therapist, you'll get not only just the chance to vent, but, you know, a lot of answers to that venting, and not someone always agreeing with you. Because I feel like people get in that rut where they vent about their bullshit, but then it's like-minded people in like-minded situations. So you just get, yeah, dude, me too. Yeah, right. For sure. Yeah, fuck that. You just get that kind of too much agreeing.
Yes.
So what do you get from her that helps you grow as a person?
Well, so like when we first started our appointments, I discussed with her how my last therapist just like wasn't the best, and like I'm becoming more sensitive, but I'm not like some people and how sensitive they are, which is totally fine. You can be sensitive. I'm not like shaming you on that.
Yeah.
But like I told like my first therapist like intimate details about certain things, and the way she responded isn't how I like to be talked to. Like even Amber knows this. Like we've had conversations because like if Amber talks to me in like a certain way, especially if I'm like high stress or like really like elevated, it just doesn't sit well with me, and then like I'll strike right back, and like I can't handle certain things like that.
Yeah.
Trying to like give an example, but I don't really like know how. But so I like told my current therapist some of the stuff that I didn't appreciate about my last one, and obviously I should have been more open to communicating with my like past therapist about what I liked and didn't like about her approaches or how she talked to me or some of the things that like she said. And I just, you know, it's still hard for me today, but going to my new therapist definitely helped me with that. She's, God, taught me so much. Like, you know, it's okay to be sensitive. It doesn't like mean anything's wrong with you. What else? I had something. Therapy is for all people, not if you have a traumatic like life or not. Like he or she or they are the unbiased person in your life. They're just there for you. They're here to listen and to give it to you straight and how you're able to perceive it.
Yeah.
So she's never like harsh with me. She's pretty gentle, and I wouldn't say she always agrees with me, but she will like talk me down from situations like, okay, like do you think that's the best, or how does that make you feel? What are you hoping for the outcome? Because I am such also like a control person, so it's hard for me to let go of things or have things again like out of my control. And she helps me to realize, even though I know this, it's still hard sometimes to put into like actions. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like a slow moving train, but like I can't control anything but myself.
Right.
You know, like me having like a conversation with another person and it doesn't go the way I expected. Sure, I can like have my own feelings about it, but I can't be upset about like the outcome or like what has happened. I mean, you can be, but like to a certain extent, because you're not in control. Like everything that happens outside of you, like there's nothing you can do. Like me driving my car and I get sideswiped or whatever, like that, I'm not in control of that. Someone hit me, like I can be upset and have these feelings, but that's essentially like it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the same famous quote, like life is 90% how you, or 10% of what happens to you, and 90% of it is how you react to it.
Yes.
You can control so much more, and people don't ever see that because either they don't ask the questions of like, why am I the way that I am, or they just go through life being fed their same BS all the time. Mm-hmm. So they never want to change, because why would they? Because everybody tells me I'm great and everything's going good, so nothing. I don't need to be better.
Right.
I'm already the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you get a lot of that. Now, do you before you kind of maybe had some negative connotations towards therapy, like, yeah, it's not for me. Now going through it for like a year or year and a half, especially with this therapist, are you open to like tell people you're in therapy, or you're kind of just like, if somebody asks, cool, yeah, no, this is what I do? Or is it more of like, no, everybody should be doing this because of X, Y, and Z?
Everyone should be doing it.
Yeah.
I can scream it from the rooftops. I'm not embarrassed about it at all. Like, for example, in my class today, we were discussing communication methods in the classroom and like how to like talk to parents or like whatnot. And there was like 6 headings that we had to have like 2 things underneath. So it was like, for example, like 1, like physical, communication and like self-care. Yeah. So this one was like part of like self-care. It's like physical, like and it gave like a bunch of bullet points, and she only wanted us to mark off 2. So it's like, like, do you exercise, wear clothes that you feel good in or whatnot, and eat healthy, blah, 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 like X, Y, and Z. For emotional, I think it was, or psychological, one of those 2, it said like therapy as an option, or not like word for word therapy, but like talking to people or stuff like that.
Right.
And she went through every single person in the class to go through at least 1 point from each heading. And when it was my turn, she's like, okay, like, whatever. Went through all of them and then got to that point. And I was like, yeah, a way for me to stay safe and for my self-care is therapy. Like, I don't think there's a reason to be embarrassed by it. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, I genuinely think every single person should be going, because it's, you can vent to your friends, which is amazing. You need to have that support system around you, but it's this one person who doesn't have these biases of like, my best friend hates my roommate and I love her and I'm trying to talk to her about the good things that are happening, and she's going to have like already like a negative reaction to it because of her own emotions. Right. Whereas like my therapist doesn't know anything, just knows what I'm telling her, and I lay it out flat as day, the truth, and she's just like, okay, like, this is how it is, this is how it looks like, how are you feeling, blah, 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 like the one person who's just there for you.
Yeah.
Like, how can that be bad?
Right. That makes sense. When Amber and I went through couples therapy, the therapist was really good at, because I was not really good at like the feelings part. I'm still something I'm working on, but it's like I could never understand what my wife was trying to tell me. And then she would tell the therapist, and the therapist would put it into 5th grade words, and I'm like, oh.
That makes sense.
If I would have been explained like this,
right.
I could have figured it out. But it never got communicated that way to me, and I'm like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
So she would like dumb it down for Tom, and I'm like, that makes sense. So yeah, I think it's beneficial. Do you think going male to female, is it easier as a female to be more, let's say, like, okay, just call it being proud to go to therapy, than it is for a guy to say that around his friends, as opposed to you to say that around your friends?
Yeah, I can definitely see that outlook because of the way that men are perceived in our society and everything like that. They have to be strong, have no emotions, be the leaders, X, Y, and Z. But I'm hopeful that people will realize how important mental health is. And self-care, to realize that it's not anything to look down upon, or to feel like someone's lesser than, or like a man is weaker than because he's in therapy. That's my hope. I know like it's not true to what most of the society is today, but I don't think they should be. But I understand why guys have that outlook on therapy, or are so unwilling to do it, because of how they'll be perceived.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you see that a lot with especially guys. It's funny because like guys that are like louder and more of that like dominant style, I see them at work all the time, and instead of trying to get their point across, like, which would be an easy way of like, hey, let's talk about this is what you did wrong, it should be like a screaming match. And you're like, you're having a temper tantrum and you're 50.
Yep.
Like, how are you not thought like, hey, maybe there's a better way to handle this, because I keep screaming at the same guy every day.
Right.
Nothing's changing. So tomorrow I'll scream louder. Like,
that'll get it.
And it's just like, how do you go through life and not question one thing and just go, well, you're just really soft and you don't know what you're talking about, and this is how you're supposed to do it. And I'm like, well, maybe that worked 20 years ago. Maybe it was a really useful tool, and the louder you got, the more your point was clear and guys understood it.
More assertive.
But if society is changing and people are changing, and not even just society as a whole, if a person learns in a different way, you can't apply one Band-Aid and fix every problem.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is like they just blanket everything and like, well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're obviously just an idiot.
Yep.
Like, well, could be the other way around.
Right.
So it is tougher for guys, I think. But I think once you start to ask more questions about yourself and like try to figure more things out to try to be a better person, I think things like therapy are like super, super useful. It's just hard for guys to get over it.
Yes.
Like the hump of saying, yeah, I'm saying, because usually guys won't say therapy. They'll say, I was talking to my shrink because it sounds better. It's better, different, whatever you want to call it. So how do you continue to grow, right? So you obviously continue to do therapy, but does she have you push yourselves in certain situations? When you go out, do you typically maybe more introverted? You try to like stay by yourself and, hey, Hailey, try this if you go out this weekend. Are there certain tools that she puts in your tool bucket that you could tell other people that maybe help them?
Yeah. So like I still am learning. A lot of the stuff that she does tell me, I would say like 60-40, like 60% stays with me, 40% leaves, just because like my memory's just like not good enough, and like maybe I should then be like, smart move to be writing notes down in therapy to like, make sure I keep everything that she's saying, like her advice and techniques. But a big major one that helps me is, I think it's called, it's like a 3-2-1 technique or something like that, or it might start at like 5 or something like that. But I am very introvert around family and like people I'm close with. I can be extrovert, and I'm more likely to do that, but it's terrifying. Like it's absolutely petrifying for me to go do something new. I have to, like, if I wanted to, example, if I never went to the grocery store, I would sit down with Amber and say, like, tell me detail by detail, step by step, everything I need to know, which helps me in that moment. But I don't need all those steps, but it makes me feel more prepared and more able to do things. Like I think it was 2020. I started going to, it was definitely 2020. Because I lived at school during COVID, and our gym at school, you had to like request a time slot. Essentially, there's only like 100 people like allowed inside of the gym at a time, and I loved that. I loved it. Not a lot of people in. Oh, perfect. But I'm not kidding you. Because I haven't gone like before sophomore year. I didn't go since freshman year, but I went with my roommate. So I had someone with me, so I was fine. Yep. But going by myself, oh my gosh, I thought about going. I sat there and like thought it through. Okay, it's not that bad. I'm gonna get inside, swipe my card, go upstairs. Like I already know where I'm going. I already know like where the stuff is. But something was holding me back, and I had a full-on panic attack, like bawling my eyes out. I just could not leave. I could not get myself to go and talk to my therapist, and she definitely like calmed me down. I wish I could remember exactly what she said, but it was like 2 years ago. And she just kept pushing me and saying, there's nothing there that's going to harm you. Like, what are you so afraid of? And I'm just afraid of how I'm perceived, I think, more so than, especially like situations like that, of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna look stupid, or people are gonna be talking about me behind my back. And I'm pretty sure there's like 10 other things I'm thinking about, but that's like the one that I can like vividly remember. And she just told me that, breathe, smell the flowers, blow out the candles, and you need to like look around you. And I even like do this when I'm at parties, like house parties specifically, and I don't know a lot of people, and I'm like introverting. Like, look around you, like list 5 things you can see. Okay, a white banner, a chair, brown wall, white ceiling, yellow sweatshirt, incense. Okay, 4 things that you can feel. I can feel my clothes on my legs, the chair, the ground on my feet, my shoes, my hat, whatever. Like some things you can smell, some things you can, like 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can taste, or something along those lines. Essentially going through all of your senses one by one and grounding yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're grounding yourself to be like stabilizing your heart, calming down, and that whole time you're also like breathing, breathing for like 4 counts, exhale for 3, or whatever the recommendation is for that. But that is a big thing that I still do today. Like I vividly remember we were at, like, me and my roommates, we went to our friend's house party, and I know all these people here, maybe like a few I don't know, but I know every single person here, and yet I was still introverting myself. Started getting very anxious and just started isolating. I sat in the corner, and then I just I had my watch on, and I saw my heart rate and how high it was because of my anxiety, and I just like watched it, which that didn't make it any better. But then I started grounding myself of what I can feel, what I can touch, what I can see, smell, taste, hear, and I like looked back down, and my heart rate was going down. I was feeling calmer. So that's like a big thing that helps me. There's still a lot of techniques I need to learn. I get, like, when I get extremely overwhelmed and I come into my room and things aren't how I left it, that can trigger me sometimes. Or I'm working really hard on a project and I mess something up that's permanent, that sets me off. Or what was it, like, I'm like, it's like a rage, but it's all internal. Like, I want to throw my fist through a wall. I want to like break anything I can, like, but I don't, and I sit there and I rage and I just bawl my eyes out and like clench my fist, and because I'm so just overwhelmed, or I don't even know what. And in situations like that, I still don't know how to calm myself down. It's still something I'm trying to work out with my therapist, because the grounding technique doesn't help me in that situation, because I'm so over the top. I can't get myself back in at all. Another thing she told me was you like put your hand on your chest like this, like one on stomach, one on like over your heart essentially, and just like really the breathing process of really deep breaths in, slow exhale to again ground yourself. I think those are like the 2 major ones that she always talks about. Journaling is always a thing, but I'm not a big journaler. It's just, I'm too much of a perfectionist where I'll be writing, my tears would probably fall on the page, smear it, and I'd rip it out and have to rewrite the whole thing over again.
Kind of defeat the purpose.
Exactly. Wouldn't work out well. If I mess up my artwork, rage. I was making my grandparents for Christmas a personalized sign. It said, their last name and their anniversary date. My paint pen exploded, and I full on raged. I couldn't calm myself. It was, and I am a mean person during these rages. Don't talk to me. Don't breathe by me. Like, if I'm fixing this and you're just sitting there in the corner, that will piss me off, because I can't see anyone, can't do anything. I just need to be alone, or else I will explode onto you and like project it onto you. And thankfully I fixed the Christmas present, but I didn't calm down until I made it perfect again. Like, it took like an hour, but got there.
That gym thing, it's funny because a lot of people, especially women, they go to the gym, especially like the first time going there, they think like, oh, everybody's fucking staring at me.
No one is.
Nobody gives a fuck what Hailey's doing. Nobody cares what you're doing. Nobody cares what that person's like. They're still trying to figure their own shit out, and 90% of the people at the gym
don't know what
they're doing either. So it's it's tough. You get a new place and you have these machines you've never seen before, and you're like, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Everybody's gonna stare at me. And someone probably got off of doing the exact same thing wrong like you're about to do. So it is tough. But it's also it's nice to hear, from you, from your side of things that I've known you for 6 years I didn't know, and it's inspiring. And I'm sure you see some things like, for me, it's easy for me to walk into places and be like never anxious. So just kind of like, I'm not really an anxious person, so it's easy for me. But I think you have to remember that the most inspiring person is the one that's overcoming the fear of doing something, not the one who's mastered it, right? So it's more inspiring to hear it from you, how you walk into a new grocery store and you're grounding yourself, rather than Tom whistling and walking through it because it's no big deal, right? It's not impressive because I mastered it.
Right.
It's more inspiring because you haven't mastered it. So you going through that process and finding your triggers and be able to calm yourself down and get through things is super, super inspiring for others out there. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see you being better. I love it.
I try.
You do. That's what it's all
day.
about. It's you just got to keep moving the needle. I always tell everybody you can't be the same person you were a year ago. Hailey, 2022, you have in January last year, if you're the same person, you fucked up.
Right.
If you were still a junior in high school or college and you were fucking in the same position, you didn't work on yourself and nothing got better, bad.
That's the
that's
thing.
a bad fucking year.
I don't see myself, like, when I hear it from other people, it makes me like, oh, I kind of realize that now. But, like, I don't see myself progressing or changing. Like, I didn't really notice. Like, I knew I sounded more like a therapist because of my experience. And I had, good advice to give to my friends now because my therapist gave me this advice. I've learned it. Now I can, try to give my roommates it or whatever. But, my aunt and uncle, or specifically my aunt, she was like, oh my gosh, Hailey, you have grown so much since freshman year. I've never seen you like this. You're a whole new person. I'm so proud of you. You're doing amazing. You're finally out there, just going on and on about how much I've changed and how good it is to see this. And I didn't even realize that. I was like, oh, thank you. I had no idea. I know small stuff, but not how, I guess, others have perceived it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, you've changed a lot, because I was thinking 2 years ago you wouldn't be doing this.
Heck no.
If I asked you to do a podcast, you'd be like, go fuck yourself. And you were
right
on my other podcast a couple years ago, and you were like, yeah, get me off this thing, So, and the other thing you touched on was what you, if your friend has something and it should be like, hey, I learned this, why don't you try it? So that kind of, the advice that you can give someone that helps them out, it's very similar to if you gave someone $20 that needed it, was on the side of the road, and they got that joy, you get the exact same joy out of giving that money, out of giving that advice through your brain. I believe it's the serotonin part of it, but you get the exact same effect by just helping them. So it's it makes you feel better, because you're like, oh, it helped my friend do this, it helped me. Now I feel better because they feel better because they would do what I said to make myself feel better. It's just win, win, win.
Right.
And then you feel good about yourself too. And then my whole thing is being a better leader. And then people are coming to you for advice.
Yes.
Hey, that's why a lot of stuff in my job, I do more than I should, because people call me at 10 o'clock at night and they have a question and they're asking me to lead them in a better way, or someone's leading them in a bad direction and I got to correct them because they shouldn't be doing something. And it's a nice feeling to know that someone can say, Hailey, hey, I don't know how to control this anxiety. I'm in the store. I'm freaking out. Can you help me? Yeah. Hey, ground yourself. What can you feel? What can you see? What can you touch? And I'm like, okay, thanks. I feel better.
Right.
Makes them feel better. Makes you feel better. So that's beautiful. It's awesome techniques.
Yeah. Learned a lot.
That's good. That's what you have been, the whole thing where you just keep moving forward. There's another saying, I forget the guy who says it, but he's like, moving dirt. Some days it's just a fucking spoon.
Right.
Some days it's a fucking dump truck. But as long as you're moving and you keep pushing the ball down the road, you're becoming a better person. Whether you see it or not, I see it. I know Amber sees it. Obviously, people around you that, I'm sure you see your aunt and uncle a couple times a month. They see it. But it's consistent growth, and that's what's needed. Otherwise, you're stale water.
Oh, yeah.
Can't be stale water.
Nah.
You gotta keep moving.
Gotta be sparkling water.
Running water, perhaps.
Hey, but sparkling water, I'd be sparkly,
Yeah.
Glittery.
Yep. Very glittery. Wow. I think we can end on that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good enough.
Thanks for hopping on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully a lot more episodes like this. Stuff you guys haven't seen before. Different aspects of people who have surrounded in my life that have more to them and better stories and are able to give you techniques and give you some insight on maybe some of our own problems. Going to be having some more episodes with me and my buddy Jacob. I'm going to do some solo stuff, some motivation stuff, and my wife on anything and any kind of people that have seen get better over time and that can help other people. This is what it's all about. So thank you, Hailey, for coming on. I appreciate you. And I love you.
Always. I love you.
Be better.